to have whakapapa Māori to me is just to have like gold in your blood. It's just so much, you're not just enough. You're like, I don't know, I'm getting too excited. I'm like can't get the words out fast enough. Nau mai, haere mai ki Kapiti with the Cousins, episode 2. Is whakapapa enough? Kia ora! Kia ora koutou, nau mai, haere mai ki Kapiti with the Cousins. Welcome to the show. I'm here with Jade.
Hello.
And our kaupapa today is whakapapa enough? Well, that's a question form of it. Or there's a statement, whakapapa is enough.
Yes.
And what do we think? And go.
Whakapapa to me is...
I've seen the phrase whakapapa is enough be used quite a lot lately, maybe for the past even couple of years. Mostly see it in like social media spaces or activism spaces or educational spaces, and it's most of the time I see it being used to provide reassurance to our whānau Māori who don't feel Māori enough or are on their journey of finding grounding in what this thing is to be Māori. That's kind of the context of it. Mm-hmm. Have you, like, where had you seen or heard this whakaaro?
Whakapapa is enough.
I'm doing this weird thing, so...
Trying to find it.
Yeah, where have you seen it or heard it?
I don't think that I've heard it that much. I feel like it's maybe more so something that I've seen pop up online. But I also think that there's different interpretations to it. Like when I think about it, I think of, is whakapapa enough for me to, I don't know, step into this particular space? Or is whakapapa enough for me to, I don't know why I keep saying me. Because, you know, if you're looking up the definition of it, it's probably going to come up with genealogy.
The
right?
definition of whakapapa.
Yeah, or the translation, the translated definition. I feel like that is part of it, but I also think that it is a wider concept and framework that's used as well. And I also think that it is, what is the kupu that you said there for, Jay? Te taura
here tangata.
Te taura here tangata, so it like weaves people together, but it also weaves, or like I think those connections, they expand to beyond people, because in Te Ao Māori, pretty much everything has a whakapapa, and it goes back to ka atua, and it goes back to te kore as well, because it's, you know, the unknown space of like, can't explain that, so that's going up here, or that's how I see it. Anyway, I feel like that's really important to say because I'm not a whakapapa expert, but this, I do have my own understanding of it.
Yeah.
But I think that's going to be, you know, it means different things to different people. And I think when I think about it, it's connected to some form of mahi or task in Te Ao Māori at the marae or whanahapu or iwi that I suppose holds its own form of Māori and its own mana, and does my whakapapa enable me to be able to do that? But I don't think that those things are actually tied together. Because if we're thinking about whakapapa and my whakaaro, it's very separate.
I feel like that phrase, a line, whakapapa is enough. To what?
Yeah.
like,
to do
like
what?
It feels like half a sentence, but that's to us. It feels like half a sentence. But to someone else, whakapapa is enough means it's enough to be able to say that I'm Māori. It's enough to be able to accept that I'm Māori. It's enough to be able to find my reo. It's enough to be able to return back to my home. Like, you know, to everyone, it means so much. It's so different. In a way, I feel like it's intentionally open for you to come to your own understanding of what it means. But then on another level, I don't really like the phrase whakapapa is enough because the English word enough, to me is like the bare minimum. Like, oh, that's enough.
Yeah.
That was good enough. And it comes from an inherently scarce place. And what whakapapa is to me is such a abundant and open concept. Whakapapa connects you to the literal ground that you stand on, but it also connects you to atua, and it connects you all the way back to te kore. And how can this massive, entire, multi-dimensional concept just be enough? Enough is such a tiny word, and it doesn't give it mana to what whakapapa is. Lots of people come from different places. Some people will have, one tipuna that they can name, or even one tipuna that they can't name, but they know that they have whakapapa. And that is not a tiny thing. That's not just enough. It's far bigger than enough. You're essentially, through whakapapa, given a key into multiple worlds, like entire dimensions that is like blows my brain how beautiful it is. To have whakapapa Māori to me is just to have like gold in your blood. It's just so much, you're not just enough. You're like, I don't know, I'm getting too excited. I'm like can't get the words out fast enough. Whakapapa includes so much more than just your DNA or your genetics. It also includes stories, it includes people who had names and faces and relationships and places that they travelled to, mahi that they did, goals and dreams and visions of what their version of a beautiful world would be. It's not little at all. It's like massive.
Kia ora.
For the people that don't feel Māori enough, if the question is whakapapa enough to be Māori? Kia kunei whakaaro? Aye. It's just, if you have toto Māori, you're Māori. Case closed. Even if you have toto Māori and I don't like you, you're still Māori. To me, I see it as being as simple as that. But also, in saying that, I mean, you and I have both grown up Māori with whānau Māori. You've grown up even close to the marae and being on your tūranga waiwai and being in that space for your whole life. It's familiar to you, it's what you know, and it's kind of all that you'll know, because that can't change.
Specifically, when I think about being Māori, it's just the same way I think about being. It just, koira.
I grew up with a full Māori family. All we did was be Māori. It was normal for me to listen to my nani and koko speaking te reo, especially when our aunties and uncles came over, and my parents both speak Māori. We both went to kōhanga reo. It's never been a question to us of if we're Māori. And so I feel that when we look at this question or this statement, is whakapapa enough? In some ways, I don't think that it's for us. Like its existence isn't for people like you and I who don't need any assurance from anyone because it's all we know.
I disagree. Why do I disagree? Or I slightly disagree because I think that, I don't think that it is exclusively for people who are feeling insecure about their identity as Māori. I do still think that it can be interpreted by different people depending on where their level is at. But I think that I do agree that it's probably being used in that way to be like, koe ware ware, koe mā hara hara, your whakapapa is your identifier as Māori. In terms of the saying whakapapa is enough, yes, in its most fundamental form, but also whakapapa isn't gonna, teach you te reo Māori. Whakapapa isn't going to show you where the watercress is, if you're wanting to do mahinga kai. So there are learnings, there's mātauraka and there's tikaka that is there around those things. And so I think that's what comes into play when, outside of that question of, whakapapa is the gateway, it's the starter. Something that my uncle says is, he says it's your superpower. Your whakapapa is your superpower because that is your right to, I suppose, access or be a part of and live in Te Ao Māori. I also want to say a saying that my mate said to me about, and it was the first time I heard it about like unicorn Māori, which is sometimes when employers want like a Māori who's gonna have all the same knowledge of their Pākehā peers, but also they're fluent in Te Reo Māori. They know all of the tikaka. They know all about like mātauraka Māori in regards to different spheres, taio, hauora, whatever it may be. And I just think that is such a ridiculous thing, right? Because when I think about Te Ao Māori, there's so many different avenues. There's whakapapa, there's reo, there's, carving, there's mahi kakai. There's so many different pieces of Te Ao Māori, and there's actually no expectation, in my opinion, to be an expert of all of them, to be a tohunga of all of those, like everything. Like that's why I do talk about roles a little bit, because I think people do like find their calling and they find what they're most interested in. That's how they, I suppose, participate or add value or find their mana within those roles. Yeah, I just think maybe in this day and age, with more access to mātauraka, there's maybe some form of expectation around like you have to know everything. And I think being more in touch with tikaka and within mātauraka Māori, I think that does help, so that you have knowledge of even just what the different rōpū are or what is accessible. That's something that I'm still learning. Being from Te Waipounamu, access to things like rongoa is very uncommon for me within my upbringing. So there's always, as you said, like different gaps that people are filling, different experiences that people have that connect them to certain avenues. But yeah, I just want to say there's no pressure to be like matato of every single thing in Te Ao Māori, because that isn't really, like, I don't think it gives enough mana to the wealth of mātauraka Māori that is encapsulated within Te Ao Māori.
I always just feel like everyone's in this process of just trying to find where they are, like what the hell their role is. Even I'm like, what's my best place on the marae? Like, I don't karanga. And I grew up with marae being normal, but it doesn't mean that I can rock up into any marae and go,
People's insecurities. I feel like there's so many people that I talk to who are Māori who don't feel strong enough or fluent enough within their Māori taka, and it is hard to navigate that. But I think having all these pressures of being the most Māori, and especially if it's not even coming from Māori, there's expectations from Pākehā of, why don't you know, you're Māori, why don't you know this? Leave me alone.
I mean, I would say that, like, in my life, there's also been people from my whānau who are Māori who would say to even me, like, you're not Māori or you're not Māori enough. And I don't think it just comes from Pākehā. One thing our Auntie Juanita said to me that I have never forgotten was, being Māori is actually incredibly easy and it's an incredibly happy thing. What makes it hard is the bullshit that comes from every side. Just all the shit that comes flying at you from the outside, the judgment and the feeling like you don't have enough or not being given, passed down things which you should have been. It's all that that makes Māori feel like it's a hard thing. But it's not the being Māori. Being Māori is awesome.
Kia ora. Thanks, Auntie Nita.
Yeah, I passed on her message. But it's true, and I completely agree. I love being Māori. It's so, I mean, even just to be a person is a really complex experience. But to put on that added layer of culture, and a culture which has been colonised intentionally and had so many things taken away from us, not lost, taken, because of the fear that we would maintain our strengths and that when we were equipped with our reo, our tikanga, our mātauranga, our connection to whenua, that we would be too strong. We would be too unified if we were able to maintain those things. So they took them intentionally through lots of different ways, which I'm not going to get into because we just don't need to re-traumatize ourselves. We already know there's already so many different educators and places to learn those things. But all we got to know is being Māori is kapai. It's cool, it's fun, it's complex. I feel like we just, at least for me, it's just being able to hash things out and what's your tikanga? This is my tikanga. Having arguments is important to find, you know, what's the best way? What's the best way to do this? What's the most efficient way I can learn how to do this? What are some new things that I can use to look at the world and figure things out? I mean, I see Māori as such ingenious, inventive, explorative people, curious, funny, able to discuss things deeply, caring about the well-being of the entire community, caring about the thoughts of the entire community, not just asking this guy over here who's got the best whakapapa and who's like the most meanest, awesomest, handsomest guy, asking everyone, asking even children what they think, asking elders what they think, because we know that everyone's whakaaro will contribute to the well-being of ourselves. And that's something that our colonisers were scared of. And so that's why they separated us out, tried to take our reo, tried to take our tikanga. Some things they were successful, but we were too strong.
Coming back stronger than ever.
Yeah, and we do come back stronger than ever because we know what it is that we've lost. And when you know what it is that you've lost, it means so much more to find it again.
Kia ora.
Straight facts.
Nā New Zealand On Air I tautoko.
Made with the support of New Zealand On Air.